WFM 91.7.
WFM 91.7. Good morning, 16 minutes past 9 on the radio. Today is the 4th of February 2021. And on the big question this morning, the big question is where we talk solutions, we provide solutions to burning issues affecting us as a country and as individuals. My name is Daniel Adaja, and this morning we're talking with regards to raising awareness on cervical cancer, and we're looking at cervical cancer-free Nigeria. I just want to quickly read a little bit before I engage my guest this morning. Nearly 85% of the world population live in low middle income countries. Despite these limitations of resources, these countries also bear the brunt of the global cancer burden. Cancer is killing more people in developing countries than HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria combined. About 80% of all the cancer deaths occur in low-middle income countries, and cancer has already surpassed infectious disease as the leading cause of death. It's been predicted that by 2030, the World Health Organization estimates that it will be 10 million new cases of cancer every year in the countries that are unprepared and lack the resources to meet this. This morning, we're looking at cervical cancer, raising awareness on cervical cancer, and I have the rare opportunity of speaking with Owen Jones, cervical cancer survivor and advocate. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you for being part of... Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
I said thank you so much for being part of this conversation today.
And thank you for allowing me to share my experience.
Now, it's this conversation around cancer is not a very popular frontline conversation. I'd like for you to, to help us, share the story behind how this happened, how you found out, how you were able to scale through it. I also want to look at, how you dealt with the mental issues around it. I'm also going to be digging deep into finding out family support, how the society was accepting of, the fact that, the possibilities of how this was, damaging for you as an individual. What was the cultural shock to the environment that you were in? And these are some of the things I'd like us to address, just to be able to get people to know so much about all of this. So I'd like for us to start off with your story. Before you discovered, you were diagnosed with cervical cancer, what was life like?
Life was pretty good. I was very healthy. I eat well. I exercise. Regularly. But I did go through a very stressful, couple of years leading up to my diagnosis. My husband passed, and prior to his passing, it was a very stressful time with his work. And then after he passed, that was very upsetting, very stressful. And the thing with cervical cancer specifically, it's primarily caused by the HPV, which is the human papilloma virus.
Okay.
And it is present in possibly up to 80% of people who are sexually active. But it can lie dormant in their bodies for years, for up to 20 years, and nothing will happen.
Okay.
But if your immune system gets compromised, and that could happen if you are unwell for whatever reason, or if you are going through a period of stress, then the virus in your body can bring on cancer.
Okay.
So in my case, soon after my husband passed, I came down with shingles. Shingles is caused stress related.
Okay.
And I then developed cervical cancer. And what happened with me was I started to notice a change in the way my body, my vaginal discharges.
Okay.
And they were more frequent, more regular.
Okay.
If you read textbooks, they will tell you that it's a very offensive smell. Mine was not offensive. Mine was a very sweet smell, but it was pretty much continuous. I always had to wear panty liners. And I was in a bit of a fog after my husband passed, and so I didn't, do very much about it.
Yeah.
But when I started to notice blood clots, I knew I needed to see a doctor. And so as soon as I noticed blood clots, I was actually in the U.S. when I noticed the blood clots, and I had to quickly decide whether to get, medical attention in the U.S. or to, get it in the U.K., because I was going to the U.K. after the U.S. Before returning to Nigeria. And I decided to, get the medical attention in the U.K. because I had my siblings there.
Okay.
So, because family support is always important, and it's particularly important when you're going through cancer treatment. So I got treated in the UK. I was treated with 25 sessions of radiotherapy, 5 sessions of chemotherapy, and I think about 2-3 days of brachytherapy, which is internal beam radiation. So, I mean, I'm saying all of this to say that, if I had, responded to the change in the discharges in my body earlier, I probably would not have had such an invasive, treatment. But because I let it go on I let it fester for too long. I mean, by the time I got to the doctors, it was already at stage 3. So, by the grace of God, I got treated. I mean, the doctors were amazed at how well I, sailed through the treatment. I was able to continue exercising 3 times a week during my treatments. I mean, the doctors had told me you're not going to be able to exercise because the radiation and the radiotherapy is going to make you very tired. By God's grace, I wasn't. But I mustn't forget. I mean, I'm a believer, and I prayed fervently through my treatments. And I had support from my sister, who's a believer as well. I
appreciate the fact that you said you prayed through your treatment, because there's a sad story I heard of about sometimes last year of a young lady who had cancer, and she was rushed into a church, and then they were giving her some water or something or the other instead of them to have taken her to hospital. At the end of the day, she lost her life. Well, if you're just joining us, this is the big question. We're raising awareness on cervical cancer this morning, and we're trying our best to. The hashtag is Cervical Cancer Free Nigeria, and Owen Jones is my guest this morning. She's a cervical cancer survivor and advocate. I want to ask some very personal questions too. Before the whole changes occurred, have you ever had to go to the hospital for a test, to even check if I understand, I'm so sorry about the loss of your husband, and the fact that that experience did allow you to pay attention to your body. But before all of that, have you ever had to go to the hospital to even find out about the HPV?
Well, I used to have regular pap smear tests, and that's something that I encourage women to have. It's very important. I mean, unfortunately, in Nigeria, we don't have a system of getting women to get their pap smears done regularly. In the developed world, you get a reminder, by a telephone call, a text message, or a letter through your door saying it's time for you to go for a pap smear. That's not done in Nigeria, but Nigerian ladies, we need to take we need to take our lives into our hands. Ask your doctor when you should get your first one done. I would say it's somewhere between about maybe 20 and 30. Get your first one done, and then get the periodic evaluations. I didn't like the pap smear test very much, and so I was a bit I wasn't very good at getting them done. But I advise women to get them done, because that's the easiest way to sort of notice any changes in your body. And if you do them regularly, then what will happen is that you can the precancerous cells can be caught and removed, and so they never develop into cancer. So you should get them. Women should get them done regularly.
All right.
So that if there any precancer cells there, they can be removed.
All right. I just want to enlighten people a little on the pap smear. So it's a procedure in which a small brush or spatula is used to gently remove cells from the cervix, and that can be used to check under the microscope for cervical cancer or cells changes that may lead to cervical cancer. How has this experience? Okay, let's talk about the cultural, the shock that came with this, of you having to go through this treatment. What was family acceptance like, or society acceptance like?
Well, for me, I when I was going through my treatment, I the only people I discussed, discussed it with at the time were my sister and my brother. And, for me it was like I was very focused on getting well. I didn't have the wherewithal to sort of like hold anybody's hand and encourage them that I was going to be okay. So I had my sister and my brother in the UK, and they took me to my, my various, multiple, hospital, appointments. I mean, there's a ton of them, and one of them was there with me every time. We both, the three of us, my sister, brother, and I, we decided we were not going to tell my parents because it was just, it would have been counterproductive because they were in Nigeria and they would have been afraid.
Yeah.
So we decided that we wouldn't tell them. I'd get treated, come back to Nigeria, and then tell them. And so that's what I did. I came back to Nigeria and I told them, and they were shocked because nobody would have looked at me and, realized I had been through, cancer.
Okay.
In fact, I remember once at the hospital, a gentleman came up to me because I just finished chemo and I had the cannula still attached to me. I guess I was having the water flush at that time. And he came up to me and he said, "Can I ask you something?" I said, "Sure." He goes, "What are you doing here?" And the reason he asked me that was because I looked so well. But it was obvious that, I had the cannula attached to me, so I was being treated for cancer. And it was a cancer specialist hospital. So, I mean, my parents were, they were a bit frazzled, but, my mother handled it better than my dad. But as soon as because I looked so well, they had to agree, agree that, I was fine. And I've had various checkups, following my treatment. My treatment was in 2018, by the way.
Okay.
And it's only, last year I tried to sort of, become more open about it. Because even now, I mean, people, when I tell them, they want to sort of like start fussing over me, and I'm thinking, look, the boat has already set sail. I am fine. Don't start to fuss over me, and this is the reason why I didn't talk about it before.
Okay.
Because, people are afraid. They think, oh, my goodness, is Owen going to die? So I said, look, I'm just telling you what I went through 2 years ago. And I'm telling you to help you and to hopefully educate you, not to get any sympathy.
Yeah. That shock is something that a lot of people would not be able to deal with. The fact that, the possibilities of losing a loved one is something that a lot of persons might not know how to best handle it. And this is very, very important for us to talk about these things. Now, you said you were not talking about it before, but now that you're an advocate for, for people to get checked, and also there is a conversation around the vaccine for cervical cancer, and also the fact that, a lot of women are not even aware of some of these things. Like, I remember the first time, like you said, the first check should be done between your 20s and 30s, and as long as you're sexually active, it's something that you have to constantly check on. So how do you do the advocacy among women who are not enlightened about these issues?
Well, I would say, women in their 20s to 30s, get your pap smear test done regularly. I would also say that because cervical cancer is caused primarily by the HPV, which is the human papilloma virus, and it's only sexually transmitted. So I would say be careful. I mean, the best advice is that you just abstain and don't get involved in sexual intercourse until you're married, because it's a very strange. Because let's consider this scenario.
Okay.
You have a virgin, and you have her sleep with one man, and say this man has had even one partner, and that one partner has the virus.
Yes.
That partner could transfer that virus to that man.
Yes.
And that man would inadvertently transfer that virus to the woman. So it's just like a cascading type thing. So the best thing is just to abstain, and hopefully have a woman and a man who have never had intercourse get married and just be like that for the rest of their lives. That's probably the only way to sort of like avoid getting cervical cancer from the HPV vaccine. Any other way, if you have sex with multiple partners, or you just have one, and with somebody who's had multiple partners, you are open to that virus, and therefore open to cervical cancer.
All right. 07000917917 is the number to call if you'd like to ask a few questions this morning. Owen is going to definitely be able to answer your question. It's 9:30 on Women Radio, WFM 91.7. We are raising awareness on cervical cancer this morning, and I'm speaking with Owen Jones, who is a cervical cancer survivor and advocate on the big question this morning. Do well to put a call through on 07000917917, or better still, you can send a text or a WhatsApp message on 070-317-56537 to be part of this conversation. You were, let me use the word privileged to have your treatment done in a more organized medical, in a country where the medical facilities are pretty much on the high side in terms of the organizations of these medical facilities. But what's your take on the Nigerian medical response to this cervical cancer in terms of, do we have the equipment and what it takes to be able to deal with it? But before you answer that, let's take the call. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. All right, just do well to call us back, 07000917917. All right, so back to you, Owen. The Nigerian medical system, we're trying to create a cervical cancer-free Nigeria. But, you had your treatment in a country where the medical situation is in, I never use the word, almost a perfect condition. What's your take on how we can better respond to this with the Nigerian medical system as it is right now?
Well, unfortunately, Nigeria doesn't have, adequate, medical, facilities to, treat most cancers, and that's why, prevention is, really vital for us. Just do all we can to sort of prevent, whatever cancers that we can, and living, healthy, which involves eating well, exercising, avoiding stress, because in my case, I did the former two. I ate well, I exercised well, but because I allowed stress to, be a major part of my life, it caused my, my immune system to be compromised. So in Nigeria, prevention, and also apart from, eating well and exercising and avoiding stress, ladies, get your pap smear, test done regularly. Parents, consider having your children, vaccinated with the human papilloma virus vaccine. Talk to your doctors about it. I'm not a medical doctor, so I can't. It's not readily available yet, but if you go to cervicalcancerfreenigeria.org, where they're doing, trying to do a lot to educate on that vaccine and other preventive measures for cervical cancer.
All right. So far, cancer has been one of the leading causes of death among Nigerian women. Cervical cancer, particularly, has been the cause of death in Nigerian women. One Nigerian woman dies of cervical cancer every 8 hours, and about 95% of cervical cancer can be prevented with safe, effective HPV vaccine. The vaccine is, like you said, is not yet readily available, but this year there's a lot of, scheduled for a proper introduction of this vaccine. Yeah. I want to take a few calls right now to get their comments on the conversation. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Daniel.
Yes, good morning to you, I say.
Yeah, how was your night?
It was great, and you?
Thank God. Please, I want to ask, what is the cause of this cancer?
Okay.
The cause of this cancer, what causes it?
All right. I believe, would that be all?
Okay.
Yeah,
so, let me hear. So, in fact, in life, one have to be very careful, because a whole lot of disease outside, sickness that will scare somebody, and you don't know. In fact, one have to be very careful. Like she said she prayed when she was, undergoing the treatment. So one have to be very prayerful in life, so that, most of this sickness will not even near us, because you that doesn't have a fund, the money, to go for this treatment, in fact, God will help us, and God will help us.
Okay.
So scary.
Thank you very much, Ife. All right, Owen.
Yes.
Okay, you heard her question. She wanted to find out. I was going to go into the part of the faith and how that affiliated your treatment and your healing process. But the question was, how does this cancer even come about?
Well, it's primarily caused by the human papilloma virus, commonly known as HPV, and that is sexually transmitted. And by the way, it's actually more readily transmitted than other sexually transmitted diseases. So it's more common than HIV, gonorrhea, syphilis, and the other common sexually transmitted diseases. So it's very common out there. And like I said, probably 80% of people who are sexually active have the virus in them, and it's men and women have it in them. But it can lie dormant until your body becomes, your immune system becomes compromised. That's when it will, likely raise its ugly head.
Yeah. I want to look at the mental side of this. When you were going through already like a tough time, and still going through all of that, and with the whole, discovery that this is what you have to start dealing with right now. How were you able to, keep your? What was it like for you mentally?
It's interesting because when my husband first passed, like I said, I was in a bit of a funk, and but when I noticed the blood clots, and when I got to the doctors and I had the biopsy and found out it was cancer, it was like no, I've got to get my act together. Got very prayerful, and I'm gonna say something that will probably make a few people wonder.
Okay.
I kind of I believe in the power of our words.
Okay.
As a Christian,
okay.
God created this world, with the words He spoke.
Yeah.
And when my husband first passed, I used to sort of like say things like, "Oh my goodness, he should have been the one. I should have been the one who passed. He should have been the one, to still be here." And I honestly believe, and this is my belief. I'm entitled to my belief. I honestly believe that I gave an opening to the enemy, and it was like, okay, you want to die? I'll take you. And so as soon as I got that diagnosis, it was like, God, I am sorry. I repent. Forgive me for the words I spoke. I don't want to die. I don't believe that I have fulfilled what it is that you brought me to earth to do. And it's for me there on, it was just a fight to survive, and that was why I didn't tell anybody. I just told my sister, my brother. They needed to know because they needed to get me to and from my my treatment. So for me, and I for people who say, oh, they're Christians and so they don't want to go to the doctor, I just don't think that's the right way to go.
Go about it.
Doctors, doctors, have the knowledge to treat, and I believe that God, has given them, a lot of that knowledge.
Yes.
And so take advantage of, the expertise that they have. Get yourself treated. I kept on hoping, before, the eventual diagnosis that, there was going to be a mistake, that it wasn't cancer. That wasn't the case for me. And as soon as they told me, it was cancer, asked them what I needed to do. They told me. I went ahead and I did it immediately. I didn't even. There was no resistance on my part at all.
Yeah.
I took the chemo, I took the radiotherapy, I took the brachytherapy.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. 20 minutes to 10. This is still the big question on Women Radio 91.7. Do well to put a call through on 07000 917 917 and 090 256 254 55 07000 917 917. You can also send us a text or a WhatsApp message on 070 317 56537. Anderson and Toki, you're asking a question. I would advise that you will send this question back on a radio doctor, or better still, advise whoever this is to go see a doctor. So Anderson's question is, I have a sister who explained having a strong object in her breast and sometimes having some itching pain in her breast. So please, what do she do? The best advice is go see a doctor.
Yeah, go see a doctor.
Go see a doctor. As much as possible, go see a doctor. Let's take a few calls. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Janet, calling from Ikorodu.
Janet.
First-time caller.
Thank you so much, Janet, for calling. Welcome to the family.
Oh, Daniel, good morning.
Yes.
You're really doing a great job.
Thank you very much, Janet.
Please, I have a question for the doctor.
Okay, so this is not Radio Doctor, Janet. We are raising awareness on cervical cancer, and definitely Radio Doctor is going to be up at 10 o'clock. What we are trying to do is to raise awareness for a lot of women to be aware that this is actually very real, and it's important that a lot of women go get their pap smear test done. And we're speaking with a survivor. She's not a doctor, but she's also an advocate.
Okay, no
Yes.
problem. I really have a question, but since I cannot ask it now, maybe I should wait till the Radio Doctor comes.
Okay, is your question in line with the conversation on cervical cancer?
Yes.
All right, please go ahead and ask your question as much as possible.
Okay. Like somebody that married a community dick now, the husband that lies cheating on his wife, what can the wife be taking to avoid contact it from the husband in case the husband has the disease?
Okay. Would that be your question?
Yes.
All right, do well to listen over the radio then.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, back to you, Owen. Did you get our question?
Yes, I did. Let me just repeat it. She wants to know if there's anything the woman can take to prevent herself from getting anything since the husband is cheating on her.
Yes.
As far as I know, there's nothing. I mean, she should just pray the husband stops cheating, and you know, he may already have the virus in him, and so may she.
Okay. So I think the best advice for Janet now is to also go do a pap smear test, and also just to know whatever it is that could be, but we're very hopeful that nothing would be wrong. 07000917917. This is the big question on Women Radio 91.7. We're raising awareness this morning on cervical cancer, and as much as possible, I have the opportunity of speaking with cervical cancer survivor and advocate Owen Jones over the telephone this morning. Now let's talk faith. I don't know, are we going to mix faith and religion together, or we have to separate them if we're going to have a conversation with regards to, you know, the treatment and the discovery of the fact that you had to deal with this?
I'll stay with the faith.
Okay. So I appreciate the fact that, you know, you spoke about the fact that positive words are very, very important. The kind of things we say to ourselves are very important. But faith-wise, you know, a lot of people say, okay, why this kind of situation come upon me? You know, some might feel like, you know, I do not deserve to be in such position. What was it? What were the kind of questions you were asking God, if I put it that way, when you finally found out this? And when was there at any point in time it was looking like it was getting to a dead end?
No, never. And I never asked God any questions. I sought His forgiveness because, like I said, I had you know, made those negative confessions, saying that I should have been the one who died and my husband lived. So I never asked God, you know, why. If anything, I was like angry with the devil. It was like, how dare you, you know? And it's true that I gave you the opening to, you know, to put this disease on me, so to say. But now you're gonna, you know, just get out with your cancer. And I was determined I was going to live. And you know, I did everything that I could. I did all my, you know, took all the all that was prescribed to me. The chemo, the radiotherapy, and the brachytherapy, and I prayed. And actually, there was something very interesting that happened when I had my first session of chemo.
Yes.
I kind of thought, what do people make such a fuss about chemo about? I mean, I don't feel sick. And, you know, I'd had some, you know, anti-sickness, you know, medication just before the chemo started, and they gave me some to take after, you know, for like 2 or 3 days. And when I got home, I felt really good. I thought, I'm not going to take this anti-sickness medication. Big mistake. The following morning, I woke up and I barely got to the bathroom, and I threw up, and it was a really violent, throw up, and I vomited about 3 times that day. And after the first time I vomited, I called the emergency number, spoke to the emergency nurse. And she goes, Owen, this is the reason why we tell you, no matter how good you feel, you must take your anti-sickness medication. If you don't, you will be sick. So I said, okay, enough of the lecture already. Just tell me what to do now. So she said to me, maybe try some ginger ale. Ginger is very good for an upset stomach. And she said maybe eat a few cream crackers, bland cream crackers. And so I had that, and I did throw up again. I did throw up, twice more that day. But after that day, every time I had chemo, which was like once a week for 5 weeks, I took my anti-sickness medication for the 2-3 days. They actually, suggested, I have it for like about 4 days or so. But by the 3rd day, I was fine, and so I would stop by the 3rd day. So that was the only, sickness that I felt, that was the only time I vomited.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for answering all of these questions, and I appreciate where you're coming from. But, with a country like ours where there is so much conversation on religion and, with regards to how we respond to illness, ailment, we saw how all of this started off with even the COVID, COVID-19 shown a lot of religious theories to how, it won't get to you, blah, 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 and all the likes of it. How do we make people understand that there has to be, drawing the line between both, where you can stand by your faith and also still do what is right medically?
It's very simple. Believe in God, but go to the doctor. I remember there was one doctor who, one of the consultants who I was having a meeting with during my treatment. I guess she was really surprised at how well I was. And she would say to me, Owen, are you sure you're okay? And so she did this too many times, and I think maybe the 3rd time, I sort of thought, you know what, I'm going to get my sister to come in with me. And so she tried to ask me again, and I said to her, Doctor, I am fine. And I said, you guys have treated me so well. I've never been in a hospital before, but, this is my first experience, and the treatments have been, amazing. Thank you, but you do not have the power to heal me. God is the only one who has the power to heal. And, he has healed me, so I'm fine. She kind of rolled her eyes, but hey, that's it worked for me. Doctors treat, but no man has the power to heal. It's God that heals. So if a doctor cuts you open for whatever reason, he's done what he has to do to facilitate, treating you. Yeah. But it is God that heals that, that opening that has been caused by, being cut up. Okay.
It's really interesting how you try to break down all of this this part of the whole treatment and all. But I'd like to find out, what was a specific lesson you learned during the whole chemotherapy time and going through that phase of your life?
I learned even more that I have to be very, very careful with the words that I speak, because where the things that we experience in life today are often caused by words we spoke years before.
Okay.
So I learned I'm even more particular about the words I speak now, and I'm also more aware of God's love for me and God's ability to heal, because I went through my treatments. I mean, the doctors were amazed. They kept on, they were surprised at how well I looked. And I know sometimes when I would be walking through the hospital from one corridor to the other, I mean, I would just sort of think, look at myself and think, what am I doing here? Because I was I would, walk through the corridors with so much, gusto, so much energy. Like I said, I continue to exercise 3 times a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I continue to eat well, and that's another thing. It's very important to start eating well before you go through these treatments. It's not when you're being treated that you start trying to eat, good food.
Okay.
Eat good food, and good food is like just, lots of vegetables, fruits, lean meat. Eat them, from the get-go.
All right.
Don't wait till you're diagnosed.
Yeah, I want to say thank you so much for your time this morning and, sharing more light on raising awareness on cervical cancer and making Nigeria cervical cancer free. Thank you so much for your time. Is there any final words you'd like to say to people or women who are listening this morning?
Yes, get your pap smear test done regularly. If you notice any changes, see your doctor right away, even though it may be so soon after you've just had a checkup. And then please, go to cervicalcancerfreenigeria.org. It's a website that will give you a lot information about the HPV vaccine as well. I mean, it's a website that's available, but you have to do your bit as well. Take the knowledge that you get from that platform and use it for your benefit.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us, and keep staying strong, keep advocating. God bless you for your time.
Thank you very much. God bless you too.
All right. It's a wrap on the big question this morning. And yes, of course, like I said, cancer is killing faster than whatever it is that you know of. Cancer is killing more people in countries in Africa, globally, in developing countries and underdeveloped countries than HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria combined. Nearly 85% of the world's population are in low, middle income countries, and these are the countries that still bear the brunt of the global cancer burden. Like I said earlier, cervical cancer is the leading cause of cancer death in Nigerian women, and one Nigerian woman dies of cervical cancer every 8 hours. About 95% of this can be prevented with safe and effective HPV vaccine, which is going to be there is a lot of plans to properly increase the awareness of the vaccine and introduce it better to Nigeria this particular year. And the goal is to continually promote awareness, demand availability of the HPV vaccine, and to ensure that girls of today grow up to be leaders of tomorrow. To be leaders of tomorrow, and this is a very important convo that we are having here today. All right, people, let's do this again tomorrow morning at 9:15 to 10 as we be part of the conversation as much as possible. And let's not forget that at 10 o'clock this morning would be Radio Doctor on Women Radio 91.7. My name is Daniel Adaja, and to the production team of Bukola Balogun and the engineer Michael Paul AK, good morning.
WFM 91.7.